Alright, so this is where I'd like to be by the end of the video, is have these legs um, sort of blocked out, knocked out. Let's go ahead and go to our recent files. This is where we left off last time. Um, and so let's go ahead and knock out these legs. And I think what I might do is once I have the legs in place is just show you how to quickly bring it back into Unity and hook it up. So let's see how long this video runs. Um, I'm going to go ahead and hit Shift A and just bring in a cube. Let's hit T to bring back our tools menu on the side. Let's go to object mode, Shift A. I'm going to go to cube here. Hit S to scale that down. Let's fire up our mirror panel here. Hit Control and 1 just to smooth that out. I don't want to go too high on the legs. So notice that if I hit N here, my location and my stuff is all off center. So if I hit Alt and G, you can see it snapped it to the center of the world. I really just want to go up on the Z axis and forward like that because I want to retain a lot of the mirroring when I model. So for example, if I hit Tab and I go to edit mode, notice now I'll show you sort of something new. I can go to options here and click on mirror X, for example. And as I move these around, you can see it mirrors to the other side. Okay, so that's another neat way of sort of modeling outside of just the using the mirror modifier, which if you guys remember, I hit Control and plus, and I mapped that to my thing, but mine has to be in object mode, so Control plus, you can see I've added my mirror. I did that in a previous video. Alright, so I'm going to go back to edit mode, hit Control and R, click left click once, then hit escape to lock that in. And then I'm going to hit 3 and then hit Alt and Z and select all of those faces. Remember, you have to be in X-ray mode in order to select these back faces, otherwise it won't grab them. Hit X and then I'm going to delete those faces. Now, the faces are deleted. It's just that because we have mirror mode on, if you guys recall, that's why we're only able to see one side. Alright, so I'm going to move this up a little bit. I'm going to hit Control R and I'm going to add another extrusion up here and go to wireframe, or I'm sorry, vertex mode, and I'm just going to start to shape this out a little bit better so that you can see it sits inside of here. See, there's the pants, kind of pushing all of these guys in here. I'm going to move these back. Let's go ahead and hit tilde and go to our right view and just take a look at shaping this out. Now this right here, what I'm editing is actually the pelvis. Let's see, where am I? Oh, that's the center here. Let's bring that back. This is going to be the pelvis, and what we're going to do is extrude out the legs from this. So let's go ahead and bring those in a bit. Same thing with these guys. Alright, then I'm going to hit 3, select this, and hit E to extrude, and then S, and just bring that in a little bit like that. So notice right off the bat, by just doing that, we've added sort of like this crotch area. I also want to turn clipping on, and the reason for that is I move these, like for example this face, I want the faces to stay together, okay? So here we have this, we'll move that down just a little bit, then I'm going to hit E again and just go straight down, and then E one more time to flatten out those legs. I do want a little bit more roundness, so I'm going to hit Control R and just add a subdivision on the side and then hit escape. And if we scale that out on the x-axis, you can see we get a little bit of, we can help push that shape, right, out on the sides a little. And I'm thinking he's got kind of almost like dress slacks on, all right? So let's go ahead and hit Alt-Z. I'm going to hit 1 to go to vertex mode, select all these verts, and I'm just going to rotate them up a little bit like this. It's looking pretty good. Now, what I can do, because I want to extrude out that fold, right? So I'm going to hit 2, hit Alt, and just bring this up a little bit to give myself a little space. And then if I hit 3 for face mode, and I hold Alt and I click on that up vertical edge, notice it rings it, or yeah, it rings around. If I want it to go upwards, I hold Alt and I click on the face itself. So what I'm going to do is hold Alt and click on that edge, and it brings it all out. And then I'm going to hit E to extrude, and then S to just kind of pull that out a little bit, right? And then E and then S again to bring that out. And that gives me a nice tight cuff around the pants. Now, I want to bring these out just a little bit more because when we go to rig this, it's going to make it a little bit harder. So let's give them a little bit more like this. Now I know I drew the legs in a little bit bowed. Now in order to do that, I'm going to hit Control R and then Escape and then just drag these inside verts in a little bit to give them a little bit more of that bowed edge. And then let's bring this face out. I'm not going to go too crazy because as I mentioned before, I like to edit on the fly and I really like these baggier pants versus these thin pencily legs. Alright, let's go back to object mode here. And I'm going to hit Alt Z, or I'm sorry, Shift A, and I'm going to go to Mesh and then Cube. And I'm going to hit S to scale that down a bunch, bringing this down and in. And while we're still in object mode, just go ahead and hit that Control and plus to add that mirror. And I'm going to mirror across maybe, you know, this leg, or I can mirror across the body or something. I mean, whatever you like, just as long as it's one of these that are in the center there. Alright, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit Control 1, Control R. Oops, sorry, let's make sure we're in edit mode. Control R and bring this down. And I'm just going to select these two front faces, pull them forward, and just sort of shaping out this cartoon foot. Alright, now in order to get that nice curve on the inside of the foot, I'm going to throw one loop in the center there and just bring it up to where the cuff of the pants starts. And then what I can do is pull that over. You can see now I've got that little curvature, and I can hit 1, grab these verts, and just scale those out with S and X. I want to really push the cartooniness of, you know, this character's movement. Now remember, I drew his feet sort of stopping at his torso. I kind of like the idea of his feet being almost like Mickey's, where they're like really enveloping his body. So let's pull this in a little bit. Like he's got a lot of stabilization. And you think about it, a lot of the teenage drawings that you see from comic strips, they make them look very awkward, right? Big hands, long arms, hunched over, things like that. And the origin of this character that we mentioned before, or the origin of the narrative of our character, is that he's very depressed, right? All right, so it looks pretty good. So I'm going to hit Tab, Edit Mode, and I'm going to go to 3 to go to Face Mode. And as I mentioned before, Alt to click that, E, S to scale that a little bit, and then E again. So once I'm happy with that, E and then S again, and that adds that hard thing. All right, and we could even add another loop vertically like this, and then grab that edge, pull it up like this, like that, and this whole edge can, this whole face can be brought in, and then even rotate it out just a tad bit on the Z-axis. And actually, let's scale that down a bunch. The reason I keep looking for a nice gap in here is because it makes skinning it a lot easier when we go to do that later. Skinning is the process of connecting our bones to the body. Okay, so another thing we need to do is really edit this pants cuff. So I'm going to hit 1 here so that it's really looking kind of sloppy, you know. So something like this. These faces here. Kind of pull that out and down. Something like this. Alright, the last thing we want to do is grab these knees and actually scale them in a tiny bit and then move them forward. And that's going to help with the, when we go to rig it, helping with the direction in which we're going to push that. He also doesn't really have much of a butt, so I'm going to throw an edge in there. Grab this vert here, pull that out, and shape out his little, kind of little butt area. So that's looking pretty good. Now the reason we still have to work the jacket. All right, so what I'd like to do is show you really quickly how we can bring this guy into Unity. So what I'd like to do is these two side and front reference images, I'm going to hit Control, or I'm sorry, I'm going to hit M, and let's see, side and front. So I'm going to hit Control G, and that brings up this new collections thing in the corner here. And I'll name this reference. Press Enter. Reference. And let's try that one more time. There we go. I had my caps lock on. Another way of doing that is right-clicking in here and doing New Collection. And then we can drag these guys in here. Underneath that, and then these guys are obviously all underneath here, and you can tell because of this. And the reason for that is we want to hide this. We can hide our reference like that, and then just have our character. All right, so what I want to do is, if I highlight all of this, I want to show you this. I'm going to do File, Export All, and I'm going to do FBX, and I'm named this Professor Exo. And I'm going to go to my Documents folder here, and just navigate to the GitHub repository where we initially created our project. And I'm going to go straight into that assets folder. So art, characters, playable character, Professor Exo. And then I'm going to hit, now for this, for now, we can leave this, we'll go through these settings later because of when we hit the issues, like we hit certain issues, I can show you where to, like with the armature and stuff, and I don't want to make this video any longer. So I'm going to hit Export FBX, and I'm going to pause the video and open up Unity. Alright, here we are back in Unity. Now it might seem like ages since we've been in this project because we've been doing art so long. So what we'll be doing moving forward is just jumping back and forth. So you can see here in the art folder characters, if I grab Professor Exo and I drop him in the scene, I'm going to hit F to focus on him. You can see that we have a, it's lagging a little bit because I'm baking lighting. I can stop that. Let's see, Windows, rendering lighting settings. Let's stop that for a second. So yeah, here's our character. A couple things you'll notice right off the bat. He's still faceted, right? And the reason for that is because we never set the smoothing back in Blender here. So if we select the body, right click, shade smooth for the body. And the other thing, and I know this is getting a little long, is if we hit 2, let's go to edit mode. 2 to go to edit mode, and I hold Alt here, and I click on this edge, and I right click, and I go to edge crease, and I go all the way to the right, it'll actually remember the strength of that edge crease. See that? Same thing here. If I want to, for the top of the pants or something, let's actually do this edge here. Edge crease, go that way, and then move these in a little bit. Now, when I go to export this, we jump back in here. Now, another thing I want to point out is because the overall center pivot is, the pivot of the world is back here, notice that the pivot is back here for him. And also, so once that smooth shaded is there, you can see now that it looks nice and smooth. The tie still isn't smoothed out. We need to fix that. So something like this. And what I'd like to do, like I said, I'm going to fix that too. I don't like that being back there. So if we select all of that and we go set origin to geometry. I forgot we need to apply all of these things. So for now, we'll leave that as is. We can just shift him back in the world like that, and then export FBX, and just for the time being, we can play with that. And you can see now the origin is right in that world. For now, I think that's pretty good. I kind of screwed up the feed a little bit by moving that stuff, but we'll adjust the jacket, knock some hands out, and in the next video I think we're going to jump back into Unity and work on, yeah, that's it for now. I think we'll work on some more scripting.